Hey everyone, I've lurked in here for the better part of 6 months now. Finally, just need to get my situation off my chest. My 30 male wife, 32 female, and I have been together for a little more than 5 years, married for greater than 2 years at this point. We have a son who is nonverbal ASD, but very high functioning and communicative otherwise. He's an absolute joy and everybody loves him to death. For background information, my wife is a serial cheater. I knew this getting into our relationship, so I'm not really surprised that this ended up happening. That being said, I felt like her and I connected in a way I haven't with any LTR in the past, so I accepted that risk willingly. She's had issues with her family growing up, nothing physically abusive, but always felt neglected. She's incredibly smart, but also incredibly pessimistic. It's like a black cloud hangs over her head all the time. She refuses to acknowledge a mental health issue and as such won't seek a psych. We had a very good relationship for the first 2 years until I found out about a possible affair she was having, hiding texts, hours-long phone calls, etc. I was contacted by the OM's wife that she noticed this behavior as well from her husband, and that's where they cut it off. Never found any evidence of a PA, but it was likely heading that way. Her reaction, of course, was to blame me for making her feel like she pulls more than her own weight in our relationship and that I'm too emotionally fragile. I have MDD and GAD, which was somewhat managed at the time, but not as well as it is now. I had to do the pick-me dance, and suddenly she was happy again. One problem, she refused to talk about it whatsoever. In her words, she's over it now, so there's nothing to talk about. So yeah, festering wound we never addressed. Starting around April last year, she clearly was exhibiting emotional distance and wouldn't say what was wrong. Noticed some texts pop up that she would immediately dismiss, hide, and delete. She treated sex like a chore, even though we still had sex 1 to 2 per week. Around May, I started noticing her on the phone all the time, but would get upset when I asked who she was talking to. Told me she was going out with a friend one weekend, and when I asked to join, I know this friend too, she snapped at me. Despite this, we were house shopping at the time, and we closed in a house the following month. I know we were having some issues, but I wasn't about to give up this chance of home ownership. The house is in the name of my father, myself, and my wife. My father put down $400,000 on the house, and we split the mortgage 3 ways. The day after we move in, she sits down with me and says she wants to break up. She's just not happy and really can't explain why. She clearly shows signs of extreme guilt. A few hours later, I get a text that she's going out for an hour or so. It's midnight at this point. I track her on the Tesla app, and she goes straight to this guy's house whose name I saw pop up in her texts. I looked him up on Bin Verified ahead of time. By 3 a.m., she comes home. I confront her about a potential affair, and she just says she doesn't want to talk about it. For the next few months, things just slowly get worse and worse. Some days she's nice to me, and we talk, laugh, and hang out like everything is still great. Then some days I hear her having fights with him over the phone, and she's miserable and shitty towards me all night. First, she stops responding to my texts altogether. Then she starts removing all photos of us from social media. She tells her father and brother that she broke up with me, but thinks it's too soon to tell them that she found somebody else. She has a tattoo with our son's name on her ankle with a picture of a cartoon ladybug because he's our cuddle bug. Our son and I share the same name. Apparently, that caused an argument between her and her AP, so she's looking to have it removed now. She's no longer okay with me driving her Tesla, even though it's in my name also. She's become an extremely negligent mother as well. She works second shift, so she's asleep while my son is at school, working when he's home, and then when she gets home, he's already in bed. She doesn't see him at all, except for the weekends, if she's home and not at her AP's house. It's worth noting, too, that he's not living with a wife or anything. He lives with his mother and sister in a condo. She spent Thanksgiving at his house instead of with her son. She tried to abandon our son, screaming and crying, banging his head against the window as she walked out the door on Christmas, until I verbally shamed her. It's okay, go spend Christmas with your narcissist instead of your own fucking son. Be a part-time mom. We don't argue, never really have, and still don't despite all this. For me to get upset like that is very rare. I'll make occasional disparaging remarks like, last weekend when she stayed home the whole night, I said, like, wow, that's different. The narcissist isn't demanding his tribute tonight. To go back to her negligence towards our son, though, she actually won a bid to move to first shift so she could be with him more often. This was last January. Come May, when it was time to change to first, she desperately begged her supervisor to find a spot for her to stay on second shift. It came with a pay cut, but she stayed. Now I see why she was so determined to stay on second shift. The AP works on second shift. Now, when I call him a narcissist, let me add in here a crucial detail. She keeps a journal where she writes personal notes to him and love letters. She also has a second self-discovery journal where she writes all these affirmations in. It just kind of seems like hope to me, though. Going back to the first journal, this is how I found out that it's 100% an affair. She dates these letters and puts incredible detail into them. He's frequently fighting with her for any slight to him or his status. I overheard a fight between them once where he said, I feel like you're not my number one priority, and I should be my number one priority. In these letters, she frequently has fights with him over not thanking him enough for certain things, like him picking her up a smoothie for lunch or sending her some money for food on Zelle, etc. She apparently made a comment to him that she couldn't wait to be a part of his family, to which he blew up saying something along the lines of, what, you're not thankful for my positive qualities and traits? My wife has a love for her stuffed animals, many of which she's had since she was a child. But in her notes, she says that he's accosted her over it, that it was weird and childish. She has multiple notes where she wrote down all her failings, including things like not being enlightened in the same way he is, whispering too much on the phone with him, not prioritizing their relationship, not making any steps to improve her situation, wearing a necklace an ex bought her, not being affectionate enough, and so on. When she's on the phone with him, I've noticed she goes completely mute with me, like he'll get pissed if he hears me talking with me. Even blinded by limerence, she acknowledges here and there in these letters that she's unsure as to whether or not this is a good relationship, but alas, she just can't bring herself to leave him, I guess. It also looks like he's stressing her to get a divorce. In these notes, she almost never mentions her son or me, unless it's a brief quip disparaging me for, I don't know, asking her to pick up cat food or something like that. Speaking of which, in our talks, the only details I was able to get as to why she left me were, again, poor excuses such as her feeling like I leave too much of a mess on the nightstand or I don't take out the garbage enough. Or that when we're both home with our son, she's the one who has to keep him occupied. It's worth noting that this is entirely our son's choice. I'm in one room, she's in the other. He goes to her room. If I try to keep him out, he'll scream and cry and kick the door. He wants to be with her, in my opinion, because he never gets to see her to begin with. I work 9 to 5, M to F, and see him every single day, all day. My dad, who lives with us, is retired and spends even more time with him. My wife, on the other hand, is only around when it seems like she has spare time. I could go on and on with more details. Maybe I'll update and add more, but I just needed to let this out. I started seeing a therapist, and my wife, of course, rejected a couples counselor. However, in her notes, suggests getting a couples counselor for her and the AP. What's been helping me cope is, I guess, understanding her psychology and what the dynamic is here. I don't know if I want to reconcile. I feel extremely disrespected and wouldn't want a half-ass relationship. She would have to accept full accountability for what she did, which seems nigh impossible more often than not in these situations. She seems to me like she, despite saying she was miserable with me, is simply baseline miserable whenever she's not getting the dopamine rush of an affair. Hence why she's cheated on every man she's ever dated. That's not even an exaggeration. She acknowledged this clear as day when we started dating. Again, calculated risk I took, it's whatever. What's astonishing to me is her inability to acknowledge that she's just doing the same thing again and won't recognize it. This guy is her soulmate according to the notes, but she also says they had a fight because she couldn't promise him she wouldn't cheat on him one day. That seems to me an acknowledgement, even subconsciously, that she knows exactly what she's doing. She seems very shame-motivated, in my opinion. As if she imagines if she cuts me out of everything, makes zero contact with me, and so on, she won't have to face what she did. I can't really stress this enough. Up until the breakup, and even after, I did everything I could to keep her happy. I've had this same thing happen to me once years ago with an ex whom I had a tumultuous relationship with. Because we fought a lot and I relied on her financially, she had a lot of ammunition to justify her affair. My wife has little to no such ammunition. It's like she just wants to pretend I don't exist, but simultaneously won't acknowledge the affair. One time in December, I did quip to her, "At least I don't cheat on you." And she responded, "Last I checked, we were broken up, so..." I don't know. Am I reading this psychology accurately? I haven't really tried understanding how all this happens until I discovered some subreddits such as this. This guy seems like a narcissist.